Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the SBK Betting Podcast with Ross Miller and TC joining me as ever. And a somber start to this episode as the racing community mourns the death of the exceptionally talented, gifted young rider Michael O'Sullivan, who succumbed to his injuries from a fall at Thurles just 2 weeks ago at just the age of 24. He was one of the most talented young jockeys in the weighing room, and he made a huge impression on all those he met. And the tributes that poured in have just emphasized what a wonderful human being he was as well. So our heartfelt condolences go out to his family and loved ones during this exceptionally hard time. And I think it's just a poignant reminder of the risks jockeys take every day for the sport that we all love. And this, at the end of the day, is a trivial tipping podcast when we look at it in the grand scheme of things. But we've got to remember that these jockeys go out and do the utmost for our sport every day. And Michael's bravery was the utmost sacrifice for it all. But we will continue to appreciate their bravery and dedication of all jockeys and do Michael proud as we move on to looking at this week's racing, and as racing continues again in Ireland after a short break. And with that in mind, TC, Ross, as we know, racing is all about the stories that we put on, and Michael's story will be one that will be etched into our memories forever. And as we say, we'll hope to continue to do this sport proud in his memory. And I'm pleased to say that this podcast did everyone proud last weekend. We had a lot of good winners. TC with Victorino and the Swinley handicap at 3-1, Golden Ace at Wincanton at 2-1, and Ross was also backed up with that. It was also very keen on Victorino at 3-1, and also Famous Bridge, who won the national trial at 6-1. So pleased that we're in a good shape looking ahead to this weekend, where we've got another free racing ACCA, 4 legs, and you can opt in. So thanks to SBK for that. And we've got two handicap chases to look at this weekend. We've got the Ida handicap chase at 2:10 at Newcastle, and also the Ladbrokes Trophy handicap at Kempton at 3 o'clock. So let's crack on with the race at Newcastle, the 2:10, where they're running just short of the Grand National marathon trip of 4 mile, 1.5 furlongs. And this is a race where Collector's Item is currently leading the betting. We've got O'Connell in there, who's had a great season as well, who's high up on the list, and Egbert and History of Fashion, who's one of the leading contenders from a betting perspective. Ross, traditionally, this is the kind of race that you really enjoy. I'd imagine you enjoy getting your teeth into it. What do you think about this year's renewal?
I think it's light, Jesse. I like this race. I think I found the winner a few years on the trot, but wouldn't be wholly confident this time. I mean, Collector's Item, that run at Sandown was strong. He came out and backed that up and won well since, and that form from Sandown has worked out well. Can just miss a fence though, and he is climbing the handicap. I just wanted to try and look away from him for all that he's got strong credentials. I thought O'Connell was really interesting. He won last time at Sandown over 3 miles, and he did every yard of that on heavy ground. But Gavin Sheehan's got on really well with him. Theo Gillard won on him in between Gavin's 2 wins, but they now go to Peter Kavanagh in a bid to take £3 off. I just think he's a horse that needs a little bit of knowing. He's going to have to come with a creeping run. That's not always the easiest thing to do at Newcastle, I don't think. And I just had concerns about him, for all that he could still be well handicapped, climbing through the ranks. So what I came down on at a bit of a price and a little bit of a swing really is Beau de Stava for John McConnell from Ireland. Was just touched off at Doncaster over 3 miles by Finn Loth. He was giving Finn Loth £5. Finn Loth has come out and won again since. He's now £8 higher than he was on that occasion. Looked there like 3 miles wasn't quite enough. Went to Musselburgh over 3 miles 7. The trip was far more suitable, but the sharp track wasn't. He was in top gear from a long way out round sharp right-handed track at Musselburgh. Did some really good late work on, but was never going to get to the very easy winner. But it showed that he at least stays these sort of trips. He now comes back to a flat left-handed track, off an unchanged mark. They bring over Alex Harvey. They've been using UK jockeys. John McConnell is sending over one of his own boys now. He launched a career, Ben Harvey. He's trying to do the same for his brother Alex. Really capable £5 conditional jockey. He'll like the track. He'll like the ground. I think he's still feasibly handicapped. John McConnell's form, when you look at it, doesn't look great. It's 19 days without a runner or without a winner. He's only had 5 jumps runners in that time. All of his other runners you look at are from Dundalk on the flat. And it was only 20 days ago that this horse ran very well. So I'm not wholly concerned about that. When you look at his flat runners as well, a lot of them have been triple figure prices. So I don't have a huge concern over the yard form. There's plenty in here who've got chances. I don't think there's a standout. I don't think there's a rising star coming through this, if I'm honest. So I'll take Bodestava at an each way price and hope that Alex Harvey's £5 claim is useful.
Okay, Bodestava, try to get that name right. I think we have done 16-1. You can get currently with SBK for the Ida Chase, which is a decent enough price for a race like this, where stamina is at the key. And as you say, it looks like a horse that will really relish this, but no certainty. TC, there is one horse that we know will get the trip, and that's Angler's Crag, who won this race last year at 11-2. He's not that much higher in the weights, is he, than he was when he won it last year? But is he a horse that you think that could do the double, which would be some feat?
Yeah, only 2 horses have previously won back-to-back renewals of the Ida. So Angler's Crag is looking to become the 3rd horse in that category, and I think he's got a good chance. But to be honest, I think he's more of just a cracking each way bet. He's going to be banged there at the finish, and around 6 or 7-1, whatever price he is now, I think that's very fair. Yes, he's £4 higher than last year, which I suppose suggests he's not super well handicapped, but equally he's not that far above where he was. And last season he was definitely value for a little bit more than the winning margin suggested, because he made a terrible blunder 2 out, managed to regather his stride, regain momentum, and come with a late challenge to win that contest. To my eye, it looks like he's just been campaigned to come back here again. He ran over 2 mile 5 and 2 mile 7 on his first 2 runs this year. And then last time up in the Edinburgh National, I thought he shaped pretty well, to be honest, when he finished a good 4th. He was just given way too much to do and kind of passed tired horses late. This is his A game, the race that I think they've been waiting for, and he's going to turn up at the best he possibly can. So with that considered, I think Angler's Crag is definitely going to be in the 3. He's going to be my tip to win the race as well. There may be a horse with younger legs who's going to be able to beat him off this mark, but I do think he'll be there or thereabouts at the finish.
Just a quick word on the jockey association with Henry Brooke, who brought out so much out of him. They really seem to have thrived last season. Craig Nicholls on board, Henry Brooke duties for the Green Guerrero partnership with Gabbro. So is that a concern, or do you think that the jockey booking isn't as much of something that we should read into?
I suppose it could be a concern. Obviously, the partnership, as you say, with Henry is pretty strong. Craig Nicholls did ride him 3 back this season to start the campaign off. So at least he's ridden the horse before. Maybe he won't give up absolutely everything like he did for Henry. But at the same time, I don't think necessarily it's a negative jockey switch. More of just an unknown whether he's going to be able to perform to the same level with Craig on top.
Yeah, Angler's Crag at 7-1 for the Ida Chase, 5-1 the field at present. Collector's Item, it leads the way, so it's definitely a betting race, that Ida Chase, and that comes just before another betting race. From a handicap perspective, there are 13 runners for this Ladbrokes Trophy at 335 at Kempton, which has got the Adonis and the Dovecote on, also on the card. But this race might be a stepping stone for bigger, better things at Cheltenham, albeit, as we said just before we started recording, very good prize money for this, 150,000 up for grabs. Lowry's Bar, who's had an exceptional season so far for Philip Hobbs and Johnson White, is no surprise that he is one of the top list from the betting perspective. Is 5-1, but Highland 3-1 ahead of him as it stands. That could change. They both have had very good profiles this season. They both got a good chance from the betting perspective in the Ultima, and ratings wise, there's only £1 separating them at the moment. Ross, 2 very progressive looking handicap chasers from this season who've been really competitively campaigned by their trainers. Difficult to separate either of them? Is there either that you've got slight more preference for?
Yeah, I have, largely down to the ground. I mean, you're bang right about the money. £150,000. We think, without checking, it's about double the prize money for the Ultima. We've had a bloodstock agent sort of getting shoved to one side for not doing his job properly over the last couple of seasons. I suggest there's a few race planners that need to take a good look, because there's going to be a lot of horses run at Cheltenham that haven't got legitimate chances of shaking up the front 4, and there's really good prize money going begging here. I think this is as weak a contest as I've seen for what used to be the Racing Post Trophy. I prefer Highland over Lowry's Bar. I mean, I wouldn't just be 100% certain Lowry's Bar will run. If they miss the rain, on the BHA site it says that the ground will ride good. I'm not sure Larry's Bar would run on good ground. They've said they want to go to Cheltenham with him. They look like they've got the option of the novice handicap or the Ultima. I think the Ultima will be where he ends up. He's been really well campaigned because they've kept him at minimum trips until they've needed to step him up to sort of stay ahead of his handicap mark. He's a really likeable horse, and he's gone very well for Mikael Nolan. His season didn't start all that well under Ben Jones. I think Mikael Nolan's an underrated jockey. He's really got to grips with this horse, and the horse's progress over fences coincide with him being on board. But I do like Highland. I thought that run in the Quarto Star behind the Jukebox Man was really solid. I thought he was getting the worst of it for pretty much all of the 3 miles, and he never stopped trying. Jukebox Man jumped so brilliantly. Often when you see that, and we perhaps saw it with Sir Gino and Ballyburn, when an opposite number is jumping so well, it can put your jumping under real pressure. That didn't happen with Highland. He was a smaller horse, but he kept on coming for Nico de Boinville. I thought it was a decent effort. A mark of 147, I think, is still workable, given he's fairly lightly raced over fences. I think he's going to have a really good chance in the National if he gets in. He'll like the ground. He races prominently. I like that round Kempton in these handicaps, particularly when you look through them, because there's a few in here that I just don't think are much cop at the moment. I mean, Katati Dory is going to be flat to the boards pretty much from flag 4. Termuras looks a shadow of the horse he was as a hurdler, hasn't really gone on this season. Golden Sun is unreliable, probably doesn't like the ground. Cheltenham as well, you could perhaps say the ground for him. He was the last one off my list, I have to admit. So I like Highland. I'd also throw Our Power in there as well. He's a bit of an older boy now. He's 10 years old, but again, he races prominently. He won this 2 years ago, and he's run well 2 starts this year at Cheltenham, where I just think on soft ground, that 3 mile 1 and 3 mile 2 perhaps just stretches him. He's got Dylan Johnson on board, who claims £3, who's a very good value jockey for £3. And just while we're on it, you mentioned about, remembering how lucky we are to see these boys and girls go out and be so brave. Dylan Johnston got subjected to some awful abuse online this week for winning a race at Carlisle. He eased down, he made a poor judgment and nearly got caught, but there was no harm done. And I was so staggered that just 24 hours after Michael O'Sullivan had passed, to see the sort of vitriol he subjected does really make you feel like you just want to shut your social media down. So I hope he goes well. I think he's riding very well. And I just ought to mention Beachcomber, who's prominent in the betting. He jumped much, much better when winning over course and distance last time, but that's about the best he's ever jumped. He can really wallop a fence or two. I think if they go quick here, they could just get him in a bit of bother. So Highland and Our Power in what I think is a weak contest, and I would be very surprised if Highland didn't go very close.
Yeah, echo that about Dylan Johnson. I think we're all capable of making mistakes, even if you're on a back of a horse or back of a computer, where it's a lot easier to be perfect, it seems sometimes. But Our Power, a horse that won this race a couple of years ago, and it's been a great horse for Sam Thomas. And Sam striking a little bit more form, went through a little bit of a quiet patch, didn't have that many horses running. Hopefully it bodes well for a horse that I'm going to talk about a little bit later, where I'm going to be taking, I think Ross on in a race, so we'll go through that. TC, I was wondering if Ross was going to mention Beachcomber, because there was a lot that were last on his list. A lot have got reasons to maybe strike off, but Beachcomber, a horse that jumped for fun here at Kempton, and to a point that Ross made about using your jumping ability and being prominent, that's a lovely sight when horses get into a good rhythm at Kempton.
Yeah, very much so. And I think he's got a good chance in here as well, Beachcomber. The jumping is obviously the big question mark, but it's been crucial, I think, that in post-race interviews, John Joe O'Neill has subsequently said after a number of runs that he needs to go right-handed. He doesn't jump well left-handed. He also needs good ground. He doesn't tend to jump out of the mud. So if Ross is right in terms of the weather, and he's obviously going around a right-handed track, then he should have his ideal conditions in this contest. Whether he's good enough, I don't necessarily know. But he's been freshened up. He's had 57 days off, course and distance form. He beat Ferro Bamboo by a wide margin. That horse is pretty strong in the calibre of this race, which completely lacks depth. And I think he's got a good chance, providing he jumps well. So I'll take Beachcomber. In the words of my Sky Sports racing colleague, John Blance, he's each way thievery for me in here at around 8-1. And before we finish this segment, where's Phlegmatic? This is the race we've been talking about for Phlegmatic for months. And he runs last week or whenever it was instead to pick up minor prize money. Barely asked for effort, obviously against much better horses, but you could run in here and run second or third, or even have a chance of winning. Connections instead run Cheltenham, who Ross has made a solid case for as a next best or an each way play. But if Phlegmatic was in here, it would have been my pick. But nevertheless, Beachcomber's the one.
They definitely have something up their sleeve with Phlegmatic.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned in our WhatsApp group that was a ride that was not noticed enough. It was extremely quiet. I mean, the whole race was around Pic D'Orhy, and also Lompress just not having such a bad error early on, and the race completely fell apart. But Phlegmatic was given a very quiet time. There's something that they're going to be running in, but you'd have thought, as you mentioned, that Kempton would be the ideal track for him. Anyway, for another day, Beachcomber 5-1 for this. We've mentioned Highland at 3-1, and we've also mentioned Our Power at 13-2. So good race that. As we know, there's other good racing on. Probably not massive field sizes. Many just keeping their powder dry for Cheltenham, which only comes up in a few weeks' time. Will we see any last Cheltenham clues this weekend? Well, we shall see. But there's plenty to keep our eyes on, whether you're watching the jumps racing or even flat international action, where TC and I are both in Saudi Arabia this weekend. And I think we'll go back to you first, TC, with your thoughts on the feature race in Saudi here, the Saudi Cup. The post position draw came out last night, and the story is all about Romantic Warrior, the superstar from Hong Kong, who's conquered Japan, he's conquered Australia, and now Dubai, and he's looking to conquer the dirt for the first time in the Saudi Cup. Can you emphasize what a feat that this will be? Because it might be lost on many people at the moment with so much jump racing going on, that this could be one of the most special performances if he's able to pull it off.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, firstly, the race lacks US depth. Obviously, Rattle and Roll is in there for Kenmut Peak, but we have had a couple of scratches, Locked, White Barrio being a couple. Obviously, Laurel Rivers out as well, Sierra Leone being another horse. That being said, this race still has top quality animals in it. And if Romantic Warrior can not only globetrot, win in numerous different nations, but if he can now win on dirt as well as winning on turf, he will just prove to be undoubtedly the best horse in the world, best flat horse in the world. Probably jumps as well, to be honest with you. Right now, he has a huge engine. He's 18 from 23 in his career. But Jess, I'm worried, and I'm worried about that post. Gate 3, not sure. He's got two closers inside of him. Absolutely fine. He's going to grab the rail. He's going to eat dirt because he's not got the speed to lead. There is no way he's leading this field. Al Musmak will go forward. Defunded will be up there. There'll be a couple of others on the speed. He's going to have to take all that kickback. And yeah, it might not be the most fierce kickback here in Riyadh. And it might not be the thickest kickback. It is quite a fine dirt surface. But he's going to have to eat it during the race. If he can come out on top and still manage to win despite that, then he really is a superstar. But I would be a little bit worried. And I much prefer the post for Forever Young, I have to admit.
Really, right on the wide outside, we were sort of waiting to seeing what would happen. They got 14. The Japanese connections didn't seem to be too worried about it. So is Forever Young your selection, a horse that got that deserved Grade 1 victory at the end of last year?
Yeah, Forever Young has to be my pick. I think he's a good player around 7-4 as well. I'd make him a little bit shorter in what could be a match race between him and Romantic Warrior. But the thing is, with Romantic Warrior, he's either make or break, I think. I wouldn't be surprised if he either won or was tailed off, but I don't see him as a horse that will finish second or third. He's either going to love it or hate it on this surface. Forever Young, last year in the Saudi Derby, on this track, had a wide trip throughout and surge late. He's going to have a wide trip throughout and surge late once again. He's a better horse than ever, and I think he'll justify what at the moment is favouritism, but Romantic Warrior may usurp him in the build-up to the race. Two other horses briefly to mention. Rattle and Roll, the US challenger, won the local trial, the custodian of the two holy mosques. He's a late closer, Joel Rosario on board, middle draw. He'll finish off well, and we know he handles the course and distance. I'd have him maybe second or third. And look out for Ramjet. He's finished behind Forever Young on a couple of starts this year, including in the Tokyo Daishoten last time. But this horse is 25-1, and it wouldn't surprise me if he grabbed a place. It could be another great day for the Japanese.
Yeah, certainly. They really know how to train their horses right for these occasions. The Saudi Cup taking place at 5:40 UK time in Riyadh, but it might be a race that could go a little bit under the radar unless you've got your fully focused on international racing. Romantic Warrior looking to do what City of Joy couldn't do, and be a horse that's bred for the turf, and to try and complement all his victories and do it on the dirt. It's going to be a fascinating race on Saturday. Okay, what about Naps and Next Best? Ross, let's head over to you. You had a good weekend last weekend. What are you looking forward to seeing on Saturday?
Well, just before I go now to Next Best, you mentioned Cheltenham sort of noteworthy performances. The Adonis has cut up quite badly. Lambda doesn't run, neither does Palladium, who's the expensive entire that's with Nicky Henderson, who's going to have a flat campaign. Mondo Man does run. Now, he was absolutely brushed aside by the Lambda at Ascot, and Lambda gave him £10. Mondo Man pulled too hard. Just thought it was worth noting that probably on a terrestrial TV, if Mondo Man wins, and he should, they will tout that as a really big form boost for Lambda. It's only going to be a form boost if Mondo Man pulls his head off for the entirety of the Adonis, because you can't compare his performance when he pulled far too hard at Ascot behind Lambda with this performance in the Adonis if he settles. He hasn't got a hood on, so there's a chance he can be very keen. He's a talented horse, 111 rated on the flat. He was placed in the Group 3, but I just thought it's worth, well, if you've got your notepad and pen out, Mondo Man wins the Adonis. Don't automatically assume that's a form boost for the Lambda if Mondo Man goes through this race in a more orderly fashion. So I thought that was worth flagging up. As for Naps and Next Best, both from Cheltenham in the Dovecot, and I knew I'd be going against TC in this because Celtic Dino, who runs in this, we both saw when we were at Sam Thomas's a couple of years ago, and both fell in love with him. But I'm against the pair of you, which doesn't bode particularly well. So it's the 3 o'clock, the Dovecot. I'm going with the Stuart Edmonds trained Miami Magic. I think he's gone a little bit under the radar because he's with Stuart Edmonds, who is a very, very capable trainer indeed. He was actually electric on his penultimate start over this course and distance on good ground, gave £6 and 12 lengths to George's Lad, who TC tipped up when he won last time out and is now rated 126. Miami Magic absolutely pulverised him at every point of that win. Then went to the Formby at Aintree over Christmas. I think he got bogged down. I mean, we couldn't see much in the fog. The ground was gluey. Potter's Charm had enough speed over 2 miles to win that. That tells you how testing the ground was. I just don't think it suited Miami Magic, who's clearly a quick horse. He's won round Fakenham. I think getting back right-handed on good ground, getting £3 from Celtic Dino and a couple of others gives him a real chance. So I'm going to take you guys on there. And the next best is Blow Your Wad in the handicap at 410. He won the Pendle on this card last year. He's not been seen for nearly a year. So fitness is going to have to be taken on trust. But this doesn't look a deep race. And Tom Lacey, who's really struggled for form this season, has all of a sudden bounced into form. He's 31% for the last 14 days. Had some quite nice horses suddenly appear. Blow Your Wad is a talented horse. It's not a strong next best in a weekend where I'm going to be doing more watching than betting. But we know he likes the track. He'll hopefully cope with this good ground. He did win a handicap, albeit off a lower mark off good ground last year at this track. So in the 410, Blow Your Wad is a tentative next best.
Okay, yeah. This is a day where it can tend to be just like nearly slightly too close for some trainers, and talking to the point about the 150 grand handicap, which probably isn't attractive as many horses as possible, but is everyone waiting for Cheltenham, and with Aintree being so close afterwards, is a case of rather miss this weekend. And also, the ground is good. It's quick. Maybe could be quick enough for some. That was my slight worry with Miami Magic. Maybe, yes, it'd be better than Aintree, but I think he probably want a little bit more juice. Having said that, he has won on good ground earlier on in the season. I just believe that it's going to play in the strength of Celtic Dino, and at prices would rather him at around 5-1. I thought he ran an admirable race in the Grade 1. Yes, he was behind Miami Magic, but look, we saw not a huge amount. He was going around Aintree, and I think that potentially just didn't see the best out of him. I think that going background right-handed should be to his liking. I think this is a much more suitable track. We've seen him really showing his speed at the likes of Wincanton earlier in the season. So I just think I'd be happy to see at that price him to try and turn the tables with Miami Magic. Having said that, I have a lot of respect for him, and I do agree with Ross that he's probably gone under the radar. As Stuart Edmonds has said, this is the best horse I have trained. And I think that sometimes when you hear that being said, you think, oh God, of course he's saying that. But with this horse is just slightly a bit different. You feel like with Stuart Edmonds, he doesn't normally have this type of novice hurdler. And I do believe that he could be one of true talent. At the prices, I think Celtic Dino could be of a similar ilk. So look, we've got a good race on our hands on Saturday. So it's myself and maybe TC still, and probably the Celtic Dino fan club against Miami Magic. And then I'm going to go back to Riyadh, the Saudi Cup, for my next best. Now, this was all based on, and maybe ask TC quite quickly about the pace setup of the Saudi Cup. How much pace do you think that there really is? Because I think my selection of Tesoro needs that. He ran a very admirable race to finish second in this last year, where he's just beaten on the nose by Senor Buscador. He probably hasn't been in as good a form coming into this race as he was last year. He is now an 8-year-old, but he's a horse that is a closer, and at the prices at 14-1, considering he was 11-2 last year, he could be up there. But I need to know from TC, quick yes or no. Yes, there's a lot of pace, or no, there isn't.
There's an average amount of pace, but the track has been playing towards closers over longer distances. So regardless of how much speed, I still think the closers are going to come out on top.
Okay, that's enough for me. That's good enough for me. I'm going to have my bet on Ushba Tesoro. I need to phone home because you can't get any bets on here. But with that in mind, Saudi expert he is. So TC, I'm sure there's something maybe on the undercard that you're looking forward to seeing, as well as your selections in the Saudi Cup. What is on offer on Saturday for you?
Yeah, it's a good day of racing when it comes to flat racing. I know not everyone will want that this time of year, but sucks to be you. It's a good day of racing. So we've got the Winter Derby over at Southwell. We've got the Saudi Cup, obviously, here in Riyadh. My nap is going to be in the Winter Derby. That's the 3:15 at Southwell, and the nap is going to be Royal Champion. I think it's around 7-4, 13-8 at the time of recording. This is a decent race. There are a couple of smart 4-year-olds in opposition. In terms of Military Academy, who wears cheek pieces for the first time on his seasonal reappearance for the Gosdens, and Pasica. Military Academy could be absolutely anything. He could easily win this race for Connections who have done well here before. And Pasica was actually supposed to run here in Riyadh, but Connections have opted for the Winter Derby instead. That being said, Royal Champion quite clearly sets the bar, and the bar's set quite high as well. He's rated 113. He ran really well in Australia last season. I think he was placed in Group 2 company. And then last time out, back in the UK, he blitzed clear of Tyrrhenian Sea, who subsequently came out and won the Tantric Stakes, a listed contest, boosting that form. So I think Royal Champion will get the job done. Maybe as favourite, maybe a second favourite in the Winter Derby. The next best does come here in Saudi, and it's not necessarily because I wanted it to for the podcast. I did want another horse at Southwell, but it wasn't declared. So I'm looking to race 6 at Riyadh on Saturday, the 3:25 p.m, the Neom Turf Cup. And it's another Japanese horse called Shin Emperor. Again, he's going to be a short enough price. Maybe you can double the nap and the next best if that's how you like to play. This horse was placed in the Japan Cup, Japanese Derby, the Satsuki Show. He just has lots of talent. Third in the Irish Champion. This race is nowhere near as strong as any of those. Surely if he just rocks up in that kind of form, he'll win. The Japanese do so well here when they move their horses across. They've got such a big contingent this year. And maybe Shin Emperor is actually their number one hope. I know everyone's talking about Forever Young. They're talking about Ascoli, Pacino. I think Shin Emperor is the most likely winner on the card. So give me him as the next best in the Neom Turf Cup. I think he'll win. Could be a very good 10 minutes if you play the Napa next best in a double.
Yeah, absolutely. The beautifully bred Shin Emperor, close related to the likes of Sot Sass. He's got the likes of Aritha, Spirit Dancers, last year's winner in the race as well. Looking forward to Saudi racing on Saturday as much as TC is. And thank you for extra flat racing. We all love it, and we don't mind if you've got anything to say against it. It's coming up before you know, you Jumps fans are going to start revising your form. We've got about, I'll say 6 weeks until flat racing starts again, as Ross looks at me quite dimly. It all comes around again very soon. I know it's only the end of February. We do have a Cheltenham special to come as well very shortly too. But for now, thank you to TC and to Ross. Hopefully we found some more winners in there for you all. A reminder that we do have that offer thanks to SBK. So the ACCA, make sure to get in. You've got 4 legs. It's a free racing ACCA. You must opt in. And we've got plenty more to let you know about. You can now listen to the SBK betting podcast in the app itself. You just got to make your way to the horse racing page and click play. Don't forget that if you are a new SBK user, you get £40 in free bets when you sign up and bet £10 for the first time. You can head to SBK for lots of other offers. Promotions are all there throughout the weekend. I hope we've given you a few tips here that will end up being winners and a bit of food for thought for Saturday's racing. Thanks to TC and to Ross, and we'll see you very soon.